Let's talk about the Deco Curve Brush. So one more time, hit the comma key to bring up your light box and go into this Dynamesh Sphere 128, and we'll just start with this. So if we hit B, D, it's going to narrow it down to the D brushes, and you're going to see we have two new ones, Curve Deco Dots and Curve Deco Drag Dot. So we'll just start with Curve Deco Dots. And you're going to notice it's a brush that has a dot stroke, and the brush alpha is an arrow. So if we go through here and we just start dragging on our object here, you're going to see it's going to leave behind a curve, and nothing happens. However, if you touch this curve and pull, it'll start building up that stroke. And of course, if you just pull and drag it, it's going to keep building up the stroke in the direction of that stroke. And if you look closely, you can kind of tell that there's a little bit of an arrow in there, but it keeps repeating that arrow over and over again. So really the effect that you're getting is just a very smooth buildup of a stroke that you can control with a curve. If we go over here, drop that Z intensity down, you can see it'll be a little less intense. And with these curve brushes, you have available to you all the other curve options you normally would have underneath your stroke menu. So we're going to stroke menu here, and if you're not familiar with curve brushes, do a Google search on my YouTube channel for controlling curves, and there'll be a lot of different ways you can control these curves. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with them. For the crash course here, here's curve. Hold down shift and turn open curve functions and curve modifiers. So the first thing you notice is this brush has curve mode turned on, and you can turn curve mode on for any brush, and maybe we'll talk about that at the very end of this video. And for this one, the curve step is set to 0.2, so it's repeating these pretty close to each other. You have elastic and liquid, so if I go to the end of this curve, you're going to see a little red string come out of the end. If you're too far away, I'll just start a new curve. However, if you're close enough for that red to kind of stick there, and that's going to be that curve snap distance, it's telling you what that is, you can continue to pull the stroke out. If you just, again, touch and grab, it'll go through and continue that stroke. You can actually go to the middle of the stroke here and do the exact same thing. You can actually interrupt that and have it pull around. Looks like it's not going all the way to the end. When we get to the curved dots, we'll have a little bit of an easier time manipulating these. But you do have elastic and liquid. So with curve mode, if I just pull this, it's going to keep pulling this curve along the surface. If I go over here and do elastic, that'll just continue. It'll leave this alone, and it will continue this stroke as I pull. And it's also going to have like kind of a wiping effect. If I do liquid, again, I can kind of go through here, and this one won't have a wiping effect. Well, it kind of will. And the other thing with the elastic and liquid strokes is you can go back along your curve. You can pull at either end. It'll just continue to like pull this stroke out. We'll go to this end, and we can kind of pull this stroke along. It's doing a little bit of weird stuff here, but you can also pull in the middle, and it will, again, it's going to leave these kind of locked, and then you can kind of pull this out. And if you want to, you can actually hit 6. What that's going to do is you can see snapshot is 5 and smooth is 6. That'll smooth your curve out, and then you can continue to pull from either end. However, probably if I'm using this, I'm probably using elastic and liquid probably off. You also have lock start and lock end. So if you want to lock the start, I don't remember which end I started with. Looks like this is my end. That's my start, because when I pull this curve away from here, it's all locked on there. And as I pull this one, the end's going to follow it. And then if I lock the end, both of them will stay, and then I can just kind of pull this curve along the surface. And if I keep moving it back and forth, it'll continue to build up. This is getting a little bit ugly. Let me go ahead and go back to where we started here. So again, we can pull out a curve. We have lock start and lock end, so I can kind of pull that middle, and it will just continue to kind of build up in that shape. Now for the snapshot function, if I go ahead and pull through here, you're going to see, okay, this little thing, and it's got a little hook there, that's that corner of that alpha coming through. If you want, you can change that to just a circle, and that'll be a nice smooth fall off over time. Now let's go ahead and turn off lock start and long end. And we do have bend and snap turned on. If we turn both of those off, you're going to see I can just move this line around and kind of scrub against the surface. You can also save a snapshot, and the hotkey for that is 5, and with bend and snap turned off, again, you can kind of move this, and then you can turn bend and snap back on, and then allow you to bend this curve, and then also allow it to kind of snap to the surface. And then if you want to get rid of this curve, if you're ready to do it, you can just start drawing another line, and that'll delete your original curve. You can also go over here and just tap away from the line, and it'll delete it. If you can't get away from that line, you can also go in here to curve functions and hit delete, and that'll get rid of the curve. Now, if you wanted to, you can also hold down Control Shift, do a slice, and if I turn on polyframe, you see I sliced right through this object. And then over here underneath the frame mesh area of the curve functions, you can say, you know what, put a frame that polygroup border. And then we'll go out of polyframe here. So now we have a curve right along that polygroup border, and then with Deco dots, that'll go ahead and add a brush stroke right along that curve. So if you can add a curve to your surface, no matter how you want to do it, you can apply a brush stroke to it by default with the Deco curve dots because it has curve mode turned on. I'm just going to drag back until we get back to the surface where we started here. Oops, open all these back up here. So you're going to notice we talked about curve functions and frame mesh and stuff. You also have curve modifiers. So right now if I just drag a curve on here and pull, it kind of goes light to thick to light. And again, that's also controlled by that Z intensity. Now when I pull on here, it'll build up, and if I hold down Alt, it'll start digging in. And I can let go and then pull out, and it'll start digging up, and then I hold down Alt, it'll start digging in, or pulling up, I should say. Again, if I tap off, you're going to see the result of that. It kind of goes in, then it kind of goes out, and then it kind of goes in. So you can kind of toggle between these. You can kind of go like, okay, I want to pull out, and then I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to start digging in, and then I'm going to let go of Alt and start pulling out again. So you can see that's kind of the result you're going to get. You can also change the alpha. Now this one, it is as you're pulling, it's building up. So at any point you can change this. If we change this to like a star alpha, it might start, it'll start behaving a little bit differently with that new alpha plugged in. But again, because it's building up over time, it's kind of, the difference seems to be kind of negligible. I'm going to put this back to a circle, and let's play around with this intensity and size. So again, if I pull out a line, and I kind of pull that, it goes kind of thin to thick to thin. If I go over here to curve modifiers, I turn on intensity and size, and I say, let's go thin. Yeah, it goes from really thin. Let's take that thinness up a little bit. There we go. So now it's going thin to thick. So again, you can kind of see that result. If we reverse that, now we're going thick to thin. So it's going to thick, and then it really kind of fades out a little bit. Of course, you can play around with this curve. You can go, you know what, let's really bloat that middle size. You're going to notice when I can just tap anywhere, and that'll put a new point in here. I can drag off and drag back on, and that'll round it out. And then you can, of course, you can just drag a point, any point off of here, and that'll go ahead and delete them. So let's say, again, if you drag out and don't hold and don't let go, but just drag it back on, it'll go pointy to kind of fall offy. So now when you use this, you're going to see it's just going to be kind of have thin, thick to thin. Or we can reset this and we can just cap this or turn those off.